One of the things that we were doing during the test stream on Sunday was trying to bring in a character that we have from our original characters list here on Discord. The thing is about this workflow is that is essentially mimicking the conceptual stage um, of character art. So like what we're going to be doing is creating turnarounds with reference images, and they end up kind of looking like this, where we get at least a face front and a profile, and then a bunch of reactions and emotions that the machine can kind of draw on. But for today, I think I want to expand on this one here. This character, I don't have any sort of story for or anything like that. It's just one of the ones that I was very happy with the quality of it. And what we did last time was we isolated this front and this profile here. And it's not a perfect profile. It's more like a, 2/3 or so. But those two were enough to be able to start generating these panels here. These just came out gorgeous. And what it lets us be able to do is to start the story. We can start to think about what was behind the path. Where did the character come from? Where's the character going? And we can craft this story together, actually. If you just type or chat anything, you're welcome to contribute as I start generating stuff here. But there's also in the about down below, there is a way to submit original characters for us to create together. You can even set their their alignments and stuff. It's all done in character. So essentially, if you want me to start, making stuff with Doom Guy, then you gotta respond to the questionnaire like you're the Doom Guy. Okay. And I'm curious to see what y'all submit, and occasionally we'll dip back into that forum to hopefully be inspired to make all sorts of wacky hybrid characters and all sorts of stuff like that. So for now, though, I want to show one of these tools off here, which is the pan tools or the zoom tools. Zooming there's no zoom in, and zooming kind of has the misunderstanding that you're getting more resolution out of it. You're not. In fact, there's always a set number of pixels that comes out of this stuff. So when it comes to this image here, if I say make this a panoramic, like if I tell it to make it wide, the actual character will lower in resolution as it starts to compensate by adding to the left and right of the frame. So what we can do to start to expand on this character is we can ask for either a very strong, or we can ask to do a subtle, but subtle is more going to make corrections and changes to the context of the image. So the second part about it is this zoom function, the custom zoom. And the thing is that there's a little bit of a hidden ability in here, which is that if I hit custom zoom on here, I can change the zoom from 2, which is the default, which makes it basically give us the same half the number of pixels that was the frame becomes the outpainting around it. Now with zoom 1, there is no zoom. It actually will just change the aspect ratio of the image, which is great for making comics. So if I say this is a 3-panel comic, I can change that aspect ratio to 1:3 and submit that. And the thing is that it could very well just give us a vertical height and all that kind of stuff. We'll see what it gets us. But let's say we want to force it to make comic panels. Then that's pretty easy as well. Let's do the same thing again. 1:3, change that to 1, boop. And then we're going to write comic panels and see what it does as the remix for that. This was the initial generation that it came back with once we gave it our reference art. So if you have some original characters and you want to submit them, there's a means to also include the your reference art as well in the Google form. Okay, cool, awesome, yeah. Thank you for that. I got a message here from polite cat. I appreciate wanting to check this out. Feel free to follow and subscribe. I really do not expect anyone to subscribe. Honestly, it's just because there's so many other ways that I throw my stuff out there. I really don't blame folks for not wanting yet another notification from yet another app, So, and I just got onto Threads too, which is just kind of it's a better Twitter for sure, but it's definitely still grossly full of commercials and things and entrepreneurial and influencers and stuff like that. It's a little much for me, honestly. I'm much more inclined to just use my website, which reminds me I should probably. Whoop, there we go. That's back on now. And the character here, even though the reference art is not that pointed of a hat, I want to stick with the squat sort of hat, so not any sort of witchy. As much as I love how these witchy, pointed hats came out, my goal is to be on model. We can always fix that stuff later with Photoshop beta, but let's see what we can generate just by being on model here. And we're gonna get into comic panels shortly after that. Look at that. That's pretty. And it's pretty anatomically correct too. There's not a lot of issue with that. So what I'm gonna do is I'm going to hit the make square. Yeah, let's do just make square and see what sort of world this is. That will also let us be able to use that as an aesthetic plate. Okay, cool. So we have our very strongs have come back, and you can see that this is kind of giving us alternative versions of the character as well, which is not exactly what we're looking for, but it might be useful in certain scenarios. The thing is that we want to make this usable. This is pretty random right now. It's just kind of looking at different angles. It's amazing for certain applications, but we have our art here. We have some reference images of what sort of scene or aesthetic space that we're aiming for. Let's go ahead and just try to force some comic panels with this stuff. Essentially from here, we can immediately begin to see this sort of layered effect, where we may not get the same world, we may not get the same space, but as soon as I have the square version of this, that's going to let us bring that continuity back into what we're generating here. So, and that's actually rendering right now. In relax mode, which is what you guys are experiencing now, is the no toll way of generating images, where you're paying simply a monthly fee and you have access to $30 a month, I think is the minimum, and then you essentially can just generate all day, however much you want. It's gonna bottleneck you on how fast and how many you can make at once. As soon as I enabled fast mode, most of that bottleneck was removed, and in fact, a bunch of speed up features were included as well. And we're getting our comic panels. We're already getting some pretty interesting looking stuff, in my opinion, down below here. But let's look at the zoom in first. The make square first, which is going to give us a little bit of hint of, maybe where we can take this story. I personally am liking the fact that it's bringing us to a darker place on the top right. I think that's pretty interesting. The woods here could represent something as well. But let's go with that second one here. And while that's up-resing, we can also take a look at the panels that we got. The eyes in the woods or the eyes in the shadows and stuff definitely imprinted onto the character. I think that what we'll do instead is save the eyes in the shadows for one of the pans or one of the neighboring images, and we'll get into that here in just a sec. Super cool way to tell stories with this, by the way. Okay, so the thing is that I have 3 links here. That one of them is this image, and it's at the end of the links. If I put it at the end of the prompt, it would be even less valuable than than what it would be now. But we also have our 2 reference images, which I'll just scroll up here to show real quick. This is the first reference image. That's the second reference image. by the order that you put the URLs kind of dictates their importance for the prompt, as well as the text. So if I say comic panels at the beginning, it's going to give like all sorts of different ranges of comics, and we want to kind of hone in the world, the character first. So we're going to leave the comic panels being immediately after the URLs. I want to take now the eyes and the shadows out and replace it more with maybe a neighboring idea or neighboring image. So if I want to have the eyes revealing, or being seen outside of the characters themselves, like I just don't want the main character art to be affected by a second character, then I try to pan over or move with the new tools here. So we'll save that text for later and only give direction for the main character instead of trying to create a whole completed image. So hearing a woods, let's say nervous, and I'm going to leave it without a gender because I don't know if it's a boy or girl. It doesn't really matter, honestly, but it does matter for the generation because you'll just get wildly different gender, like gendered, leaning in different directions. Very feminine, very masculine, very genderless. The easiest way for me to do this is actually just to write genderless, and it's a very common. When you do image interrogation, which is where you basically do a reverse prompt, you get it to tell you what it thinks an image is. Genderless oftentimes comes up for like webcomic characters and very simplified characters, so that's neat. But we'll go ahead and render this. I do want to force it to not make it a square image, so let's do AR23. That's like a vertical panel here. So we'll see how that comes out. I didn't turn on any styles. So styles would be expressive or scenic when it comes to Niji. The styles are extremely dominative. They will make your characters look very like for style expressive, it makes your characters look like Jim Carrey. At least for all the guys, like I all the expressions remind me of someone who is pretending to be Jim Carrey. I don't know why that is for me, but even like big bulky guys and stuff like that, they just got this like Ace Ventura smile that I don't know. I don't know what the deal is with that, but I'm very curious to see what we get from these initial panels here, because then we can do a zoom or a pan to be able to make the layouts really dynamic with this. And if it doesn't match too much, that's fine. We can just do very subtle until it does. So some of these are really cute right off the bat. The first one's pretty off model. The second one is pretty close, but I think it's this one right here. That probably we can always combine these later. We can always double back and use this imagery for other purposes or whatever. But for today, what I'm going to do is let's up-res this third one here, because I do think that it's probably the cleanest out of this all. The fourth one just doesn't really make a lot of sense. There's not a lot of purpose to this bottom panel here. I can easily see some sort of I'm lost in thought, and then I hear a crackly noise as this sort of motivation for turning the head and such. She's looking to her left or to camera right, so let's do a pan right. That being said, well, I'm very curious to see how this one comes out, because what we did was we essentially copied a new prompt in front of the old prompt. But I really like this one, like that look over, and maybe like it's coming in for the attack over here or whatever. Let's keep going. Let's see how this interaction goes. So let's pan to the right here, and let's add cat demon reveal jumping at you fantasy monster. Sure. Why not? Let's just say that's what happened. I could also just pan to the right and say nothing, or pan to the right and say just comic panel. And we'll see how all three of those come out. Oh, hey, thank you. Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. I really do. Um, the I'm curious if my chat box works. Oh, hey, look, it works. Hey. So I'm really new to streaming, actually, Kikas. I'm so new actually that I didn't even know if my chat bubble thing worked to tell me when people are talking to me. So that's awesome to see. Thank you so much. This little guy right here. That's awesome. Yeah, yeah. So what I end up doing is I do a lot of generative work. This is some Photoshop and Midjourney kind of combined together. I am a former visual effects artist for Robot Chicken, Moral Oral, and a couple other Adult Swim shows. I've been on a long hiatus. It's been about 10 years or so since well, now 11 actually, since I worked in entertainment. Frankly, it was generative imagery that brought me back into arts. This may sound very counterintuitive, but while everyone was fretting about the future of digital media, I was super excited to get back into it. So, yeah, I'm pulling all my skills from that time to kind of combine them with generative imagery and tell my own stories. So the art we have here right now is actually a story that we were crafting with one or two other chatters that were here earlier, but they were just following, like they didn't actually type anything. So I just kind of, started working on this character turnaround or character story for one of the original characters that's in my Discord. This is a very, very interesting time because some people will consider using generative imagery for learning to be bad or counterintuitive. Personally, I think that it's a really fun way to explore different art styles without having the history or the knowledge to know what you're looking at. Especially for people who maybe have a little bit of drawing skill behind them and stuff. Just like they've filled up a sketchbook or two. They can really see some really cool stuff. Here's what I'm going to recommend you do. I have a way to submit in the about down there, that is lets you submit to the black box, and it basically you respond in character to a questionnaire, and that lets me make a comic book around your character. At least at this stage, as long as you don't see it as an alternative to making your art, as opposed, it needs to just be a way to explore your art, then I'm all for it. I where I draw the line would be like, if you're particularly young, like if you're like, 7, 8, 9, 10 years old, I'm just going to say that you need to start filling up sketchbooks. Like that's what you need to be doing. Because at least when it comes to the hand-eye coordination side of things, the AI is never going to help you with that. What it will do is let you explore like your characters in dynamic or interesting ways, like kind of like imagining if you got to collaborate with your favorite artists. Like that's kind of like your favorite artists through history, if you wanted to do like what if Salvador Dali took my OC and went ham with it. That's kind of the explorations that I personally like seeing people do. But for this one, and I'll just show this real quick. In my Discord here, there is a channel called Original Characters, and these are characters that we've generated through a workflow that I have on my website. And this is the character that we're working with right now. As you can see, we're pretty good at keeping continuity, except for like small like details like the headband and such. But on the last stream, which was my first like kind of test stream, we created this character because somebody submitted their original art. And it was, probably, it might have even been a commissioned piece, like something that they didn't draw, but that's fine. I don't really care. You can submit Bowser or Halo or Doom Guy. I don't care. But you can get really detailed with it. And so it's pretty cool. The Sprat Punk is just such a fun result. Oh, awesome. Thank you for joining. Awesome. You can actually see what I'm doing live if you go to the White Lodge right now. If you try to click on any of the buttons, you're going to need to sadly have to pay for Midjourney because they ended the free trial. And if you can't vote, like say you don't have a Midjourney account, which I very much understand you don't, you can actually go into the reactions here and you write 2 like that, and you can tell me, oh, I like the second one here. The second one is the one that's really cool. You know what I mean? That's a way to communicate with me without having to like ping me or anything like that. Each one of the lodges in the Discord is pretty big. Like they are a pretty large library of images that you are free to use. Yeah, you should go to bed. I do appreciate you coming on. Thank you so much for following, though. You know what I mean? Like that really does. It really does mean a lot. It's something that, as somebody who used to do a lot of stuff on really big platforms and stuff, and then suddenly, not suddenly, it's been 10 years, but to start all over again has been very humbling, and I just appreciate the follow a lot. Thank you so much. I hope to see you around on the Discord too.